Welcome back to the shop, guys. If you're one of my subscribers and you catch my videos, and you know that I spend a good amount of time modifying my own heads. In this video I will be testing out a head on my YZ125 with a slightly higher compression. The head profile will be the same otherwise. I have the squish band clearance on both the heads set the same. This is the head I'll be trying out. I haven't tested it yet. I've tuned it to what I want it to be, and we're going to take it to the track in this video and give it a shot and see how it compares to the head that I currently have on the bike. If there's not enough information in this video for you on heads, down in the description I'll have links, multiple links to other videos where I did heads modified on myself and different profiles and stuff like that. But anyway, this is your stock head. You can see with that lip right there that the squish band clearance was pretty fat on this one. I forgot exactly what the numbers were. It'll be in one of the videos down below. But this is my modified head right here. This is the one that we'll be testing out. And the modified head that I'm currently using has a squish band clearance of about 30 thousandths, which is about 0.77 millimeters. And that's on the very outer edge. That's in this area right here in the very outer edge, because these YZ125s, they come with a lot of taper. So even though the squish band clearance is just a hair above 30 thousandths, like 30.5, if you get to this section right here, let's see, then it's just over 1 millimeter, which is about 41 thousandths. Yeah, it's about 41 thousandths, and that's going to be in that area right here. So you can see it goes from 30 to about 40 right there. Now I'm using the fat end of this caliper here. If I use the pointier end at the end, and I can follow it more closely, and I can show you that. Let me get this in your view here. I'm getting 34, and that is actually right here, just past that mark is at 34. So somewhere in this range right here, it seems to be right about 30, just a hair above, then about 34 right here, and then it will work its way up to about, let's see here, about 38. Let me try to get it a little bit closer to the very end. Alright. Yeah, 40. So it works its way up to 40. So it works its way up to 40 right here, right before it reaches the dome area. And that's the head I'll be trying out. The head that's currently on the bike right now has the same squish band clearance. The only thing different is the amount of the dome. I did not cut out as much of the dome area to give this one a slightly higher compression. Now, I don't have the exact CCs right now. If you watch my previous videos on doing the head mods, where I use a plexiglass, I'll take plexiglass and I take some small amount of grease, put it on there, and I bolt the head on the plexiglass, and I use a syringe to measure how much water I can get up into the chamber, and that's how I see the heads. But I don't have the measurements right now. I tried a different route. I'm doing it differently this time. Instead of CCing it, what I did was I tried, and it's working so far. I took this bit right here, put a 17 millimeter socket on, and put a really powerful drill on it, just electric drill, but a powerful one. And I put it on the flywheel here, and I spin the motor with the drill. I spin it this way. Obviously you want to make sure that nut's locked tighted on there so it doesn't come loose. So mine is locked tighted on there, so I was able to spin it with everything staying tight. Now if you're going to do that to check your compression, you want to remove the pipe and have the throttle held wide open to get a good accurate reading. And you'll want a digital compression tester that goes up over 200 pounds. Some of these don't go over 200 pounds. When I bought this one, it only went up to 200 pounds. And so what I did is I went and looked for a gauge that goes up to 250, and I put it on the compression tester. I just took the digital one that only went to 200 and put one on that went to 250, and that does a trick because it does read higher than 200 psi when I have it on the drill. I don't have the drill right now to show you. It's not here right now, so I don't have it to show you me doing a compression test on it. But I can tell you the stock head on the drill produced about 205 psi compression. Now I know that sounds like a lot, but you're probably comparing that to when you try to kickstart the bike to get a compression reading, and you're not going to get as high of a reading with just kicking it as you do when you have the drill on there really spinning. It's really hauling ass, so your compression is going to read a little higher. But I was reading 205 psi with the stock head, and then the head that I currently have on it right now is reading 210, so it's 5 psi more than the stock head. Then the head that I'll be trying out reads 215, so it's even 5 more psi than my modified head. So this one will be 10 psi total higher than the stock head, but only 5 psi higher than the head that I currently been using, which has been performing great for me. I've had this head for probably about 3 months made, and I just haven't tested it out because this whole bike's been performing so good, and I just get to the track and I'm just having a good time. It's doing good. But I think it's about time that I do test it and compare it, and let's see if I have a little bit more in the bag here that I don't know about. We're gonna find out. So I'll take it to the track, test this one out, bolt this one on, and let's see if the extra 5 psi compression reading is something I can feel on the track, and if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So let's go do it. Now, if you try to check the compression like the way I was doing it with the drill on the stator, you want to make sure the stator spins the correct way, which is counterclockwise. Remember, the crank in the stator always spins the same direction the rear wheel's spinning when the bike is going forward. So you want to spin it counterclockwise. You also want to either disconnect your stator up here, or at least put a spark plug in the spark plug cap and ground it out on the frame so it has somewhere for that energy to go. You don't want to just have the cap laying around with no spark plug in it and it not grounded out and no place for that energy to go. That's just not good for the electronics. So make sure you either disconnect the stator or put a spark plug in there and have it grounded on the frame so it can spark away as you're doing your compression testing. Now, just a quick recap for you guys that aren't really too informed on cylinder heads. The squish band is this area right here, and this is the dome area. Now, the beauty of the squish band, stock, they come hey, chill. Stock, the squish band clearance is a little bit fat. Stock, it was right in this corner right here. If I remember correctly, it was about 42 or 43 thousandths, which, you know, as I just showed you, now I have it down to about 30 thousandths. But the beauty with that is when you shave the cylinder head down to get the squish band clearance tighter, when the piston comes up the top dead center, it's going to push more of that charge in here into the dome area where the spark plug's at. And most all your energy during the combustion process comes from all the charge that is up in this dome, and whatever is left up in this corner is kind of cold because it's smashed between the cylinder head and the piston, and it really doesn't burn until the piston is so far down the stroke that it doesn't really contribute to much of the power production. So the idea is to get it tighter, closer, so it pushes more of the charge into the dome area. But you can't just mill the head. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't just mill the head and get the squish band clearance tighter without also correcting the dome to bring your compression ratio down to an acceptable range. Because on a two-stroke, when the compression gets higher, it will start creating more torque and more bottom end power, maybe mid-range, but it does also increase your pumping losses up at the top end and can start robbing top end power. So if you only mill the head but don't open the dome back up, you'll end up with a bike that not only is not happy with the feel that you have, you'll probably have to run higher octane, but it also will run very flat up top. It'll just only rev so high and then stop. So that's why I'm testing this head and to see if I'm going to gain power but not lose any top end by going to a higher compression than what I'm currently running. You just don't want to start throwing a lot of compression on a two-stroke. It's not like a four-stroke where more compression seems to do better as long as your feel can handle it. Two-strokes are different. You cross a line where it starts losing top-end revs. So that's why if you look at my stock head here, if you can see on the camera, there's less dome area, and this modified head has more dome area because when I milled the head, it shot the compression through the roof, and then I have to open the dome up to get the compression ratio down to an acceptable level, which this one, like I just mentioned a minute ago, is producing about 10 psi cranking pressure more than the stock one. But yeah, let's go test it out. Alright, here at 74, going to compare the heads. Going to start with my current head, go out there, get warmed up, get my butt dyno dialed in, and I'll come and put the high compression head on. So let's go take her for a ride. Alright, preliminary warm-up ride is done. Let me go ahead and bolt on this slightly higher compression head here, and let's see how she does. Alright, here's the two heads side by side. That's the head I'm about to bolt on. This is head I've been running, and so it's hard to see in the picture, but this dome is a little bit shallower, not as deep, not as cut out as this one, so it's going to be slightly higher compression. But alright, let me bolt it on. Alright, got the higher compression head on. Let me go ahead and gear up. Let's take it out and test her out. Oh, one little tip. When you're putting these heads on, like the 2005 to 2021, the YZ125 that doesn't have little locating pins that when you slide the head on, it locks it in position. You can see it has a lot of wiggle. See all that wiggle right there? And you want it centered, so since it doesn't have locating pins, what I do is when I go to tighten the head down, I spin the whole head. You can spin it counterclockwise, clockwise, doesn't matter, but spin it and hold it, and then tighten it down, and at least that will ensure that it's centered. Well, this is the head I was using, which is 5 psi cranking pressure more than the stock head, and the squish band clearance down to 30, about 30 thousandths on the outer edge. This is the head I just tested out. Same squish band clearance, about 30 thousandths at the outer edge, but the compression is about 10 psi more than stock. On this track today, I actually preferred this head 5 psi more. You know, the ride I just did on the higher compression head, it does make good bottom end, and it does make good mid-range, and it still revs out just as high. It just seems a little more labored up at the top end. Where this head right here, you can kind of get it all the way to its highest revs at about 60% throttle. This one you would need more about 75, 80% throttle to get to the highest revs. It's just a little more labored, so it takes more throttle to get it really revving out. If I was on a tighter supercross track, this would definitely be the head to use, but out here on these motocross tracks where you keep them open for quite a bit longer, this head is definitely a winner on this situation today. So let me go ahead and put my preferred head on. The one only has 5 psi more than stock, and we'll take her for one more quick ride and get it back to back. Alright, I got back on my head that has the squish band clearance at about 30 thousandths on the outer edge with the compression ratio about 5 psi cranking pressure more than stock. This is my preferred head, so let's go ahead and take it back out for another ride. Okay, back in the man cave, back home. So yeah, the slightly higher compression head of 10 psi more than stock on the compression just didn't work out for me. It might be good for supercross or where you need that extra bottom and mid range, but when it comes to lap times around a motocross track, the head that I'm currently using, which is only 5 psi when I tested with the cranking pressure, seems to be my preferred head. That head just seems to run cleaner, not really cleaner, but it's just more balanced. It makes good bottom, makes good mid, and it just free revs, and it free revs to the highest. It doesn't take as much throttle to get to the highest revs. I can, like I mentioned a minute ago, about 60% throttle, and that will go all the way to the very top with that head. Where this one that has a compression ratio even higher, I would say it takes more like 75 or 80% throttle for it to reach its highest rev. So it almost seems like it's more labored in the revving department up at the top end, and that might be okay on a supercross track where you're not losing where you're not using a lot of top end, only maybe for short bursts. But for the most part, you're coming out of a lot of corners where where you need that good bottom and mid. But on motocross track where you have it ringed out pretty much lap after lap, it is nice to have a head that doesn't feel as labored. It feels like it's easier on the motor. It revs freer and easier, and it just seems more appropriate and more right. So what's next to try? Well, I know I already have tried a 32,000 squish band clearance, and then I went down to a 30,000, and I'm not really comfortable taking it any tighter than that on a 125. For me, that's kind of with the gas that I'm using, which is 60% race fuel and 40% pump fuel, race fuel being 110 octane. That's about as tight as I'm comfortable going. So I know some people have gone tighter, but you know, I can tell. I've been doing this for a while. I can kind of tell that's pretty much at the safe limit for the field that I'm running. So I really don't want to go any tighter than that. I have tried that squish band clearance with a stock compression, and the magic wasn't quite there. It wasn't until I went to 5 psi higher compression with the squish band clearance at 30,000, which is that head right there, that I stumbled into what I liked and what I thought felt good. So how can I improve on that? That's the question. Can I improve on that? I definitely know going back down the stock compression is not going to improve it. And I definitely know going up higher, at least 5 psi higher, is not than that head that I'm currently using. Is not going to improve it. If I had to go any direction at this point, if I had to try any direction at this point, I wouldn't go higher. I would get the compression ratio right between the stock head and that head, which that head produces about 5 psi more cranking pressure. So I maybe try 2.5, maybe, but I don't know. At that point, we're literally splitting hairs, so I don't even know if I'm going to try it. I might, but as of right now, that head is a winner. So if you're putting together a head for your YZ125 and you're looking for some specs, I can tell you from my experience, get that squish band clearance down to about 30,000. This one measured actually 30.55. So get it down to about that on the very outer edge and get the compression ratio just a click over stock. Again, I don't have the CCs for you because I didn't CC it. I just went by the cranking pressure, but just get it a little bit over stock and you're going to have a nice head. It's going to do good. 30,000 to 30.5. You know, again, that's measuring at the very end here. And again, there you go. 30. It says 30 thousandths and it has a 5. So I'm going to say anywhere between 30 thousandths to 32 thousandths, because this can be very, you know, just get it anywhere between 30 to 32, I would say, and you're going to be good. Just don't go any tighter than 30. Definitely don't go any tighter than 30, or you're going to be entering the red zone. If you get it between 30 and 32 on the outer edge, that's the sweet spot. So yeah, appreciate you guys watching this, and catch you next time.